Well, let's talk about it. Okay, so really quickly, the best way to answer this question is to ask another question, and I'll go ahead and be, I'll be the subject for the day. As a gay man, I don't want to have sex with a trans man. I just don't. It's just not my cup of tea. And there are many, many gay men that absolutely feel the same way. Are they on the chopping block right now? Furthermore, there are trans women who don't want to sleep with trans men. Okay? Are they on the chopping block? So again, if we're going to be canceling one person, we need to cancel everybody. And that's the biggest discussion that's not happening on this app, and where I truly believe that heterophobia is coming into play. It's not okay that we are forcing that onto people. This is a 60-second video, so you can stitch this with your response.
Okay, real quick, can we just talk about the Dave Chappelle controversy where he compared transgender genitalia to an Impossible Whopper? Why are people offended by that? It's true. Just because it tastes like, looks like, and smells like doesn't mean it's the real thing. I know people that won't drink sodas because if they have artificial sweeteners, because it's not the real stuff. People want real food. There's something about authenticity that's important, especially when it goes into your mouth. And you may say, well, this is transgender people. Well, last I checked, when you're intimate with someone, things go into your mouth sometimes. Could be saliva, sweat, use your imagination. This is something that is deeply personal and intimate, and I don't think anyone is wrong for wanting authenticity. I don't care how much someone screams that they are something different than they are. Reality has to take place and set foot, right? Set in place. We don't need to entertain people's delusions. An example of that, we'll use two famous celebrities, Emily Page and Bruce Jenner. Now, Elliot Page and Caitlyn Jenner, respectively. Elliot Page is not a man to me. He is a woman, biologically speaking. And Bruce Jenner is also male, biologically speaking. You can dress them up, you can do whatever surgeries you want, but they're not what they claim to be. Now, I believe that we should be respectful of people, that we should be decent, kind, and be loving of all of God's creations. But when people change themselves and go against what their biological markers are, that's their choice, and they're not hurting anyone but themselves. And maybe they're not even hurting themselves. Maybe they're helping themselves. But that doesn't mean I have to throw common sense into the wind and just disregard fact and say, no, you're definitely what you claim to be. Because if that's the case, you could claim to be any race, anything you want. You could claim to be another species. This is the same old argument, but the problem is the left, especially transgender community, they are bullying everyone on the other side, saying you have to accept what we say as fact. You have to think that we are 100% exactly the same, or else you're a bigot, you're a transphobe, you're a hateful, evil person. And that's just not fair, nor is it correct. Heterosexual people likely want to date heterosexual people. Homosexual people likely want to date homosexual people. People that want to date someone from a different sex, the opposite sex, should have the right, the privilege, the ability to do so without being forced into, oh, well, you're a hateful person if you exclude any group from the potential dating pool. Let me give you an example real quick. Harry and Sally. Harry, heterosexual man. Sally, heterosexual woman, both biologically correct in what I'm saying. Harry falls in love with Sally and vice versa. They get married. Harry reveals he has a kink he likes his toes to be sucked. Sally thinks toes are gross and does not want them in her mouth. Would Harry be correct in pressuring Sally, shaming her, and accusing her of being hateful and such if she did not want to engage? Because in his mind, they're no different than fingers, and she'll put fingers in her mouth, but why won't she put his toes in her mouth? She says, hey, it's my mouth, I don't want to engage in that. I think everyone would be on Sally's side and say Harry's a jerk if he demands that she enjoys sucking on his toes or even has to engage in it. If she acquiesces on her own free will, that's one thing. But Harry and society should not pressure her into doing something she doesn't want to do. And that's exactly the problem we have with the transgender community. They're demanding to be treated exactly the same in regards to your desire to date them, to be with them, to be intimate. They're basically saying, you have to view us exactly as a female if I was born biologically male and transitioned over, or else you're hateful. You're a bigot. You're a transphobe. And that's just absolutely incorrect. I get it, though. Transgender people are on the shallower end of the pool of dating, right? You have the heterosexuals, the deep end, tons of options. And then as you move into bisexuality and homosexuality and transgenderism, and you commingle heterosexuality and homosexuality within that group, it becomes a smaller and smaller subset of people, and your options are much greatly reduced. That's just the way life works. Sometimes you're in the larger group and sometimes you're in the smaller group. But you can't look at the larger group and say, you must find me sexually attractive. Look what I've done. I've lopped off my penis. I've added breasts, artificially created a vagina. You must now find me to be equally as attractive as a female. Let's face it, some transgender people I've seen in magazines and shows and such, they present very beautifully, sometimes more beautiful than your average woman. But that doesn't change the fact that that is not a real woman. I would rather be with an average looking woman than a smoking hot transgendered guy that's transgendered into a woman, right? That's just the way it is. What I put in my mouth is up to me. I don't have to want to be romantically intimate with anybody that doesn't interest me, and I'm not a hateful bigot for feeling that way. And neither is Dave Chappelle, and neither are you. Can we just stop entertaining people's delusions and accept the fact that people have different preferences, and you should not be shamed for having a preference? We're all God's children. Let's love one another. I prefer brunettes over blondes. It doesn't mean I hate blondes. It just means I'd rather date a brunette. I find them more attractive. Would I date a blonde? Sure. Why? Because she's still beautiful. She still is a female, but I'm certainly not going to date a beautiful man that presents as a female. Look, I have all the plumbing. It's not legit plumbing. It's artificially created. You are the artificial sweetener of the soda world. Just accept that. Be beautiful. Be yourself to the best of your ability and live life. Let's not be hateful to one another. Don't shame me for having preferences, and I won't shame you for having your preferences on how you want to present yourself. God bless. Thanks for watching.